This is Izmir, Turkey, my grandfather's hometown. He was born there after his father escaped from Poland before the war has started. It all begins in 1938. When he felt winds of war, Asher, my great-grandfather, has escaped from Warsaw to Turkey, where he met my lovely great-grandmother, Senora. It was so hard to keep faith and maintain religious back in those horrible days. I'm truly happy that my great-grandfather Asher managed to escape before it all started. This is Albert, my grandfather. He was born in 1922. He had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. Raising 9 children was very difficult back then. It was economically stressful. There were no varied jobs. The period in which he was born was after the First World War. There were many times when my grandfather and his siblings went to bed hungry. But being religious, on the other hand, was not difficult. There were many great rabbis who lived at the time and guided the Jewish public. Although religion could be preserved, it was not kept strictly. In my grandfather's school, the Jews were always teased. But very quickly, when he was in the 2nd grade, his parents transferred him to a Jewish school called Alliance. This school was established by the contribution of a wealthy Jew, and was established with the approval of the Turkish authorities for Jews only. There was a constant fear that the Germans would enter Turkey when World War II began. There were rumors about how Jews were treated and what was being done to them. My grandfather always had thoughts of the land of Israel as a Jewish state, especially during the war. Luckily for him, the Germans had not yet succeeded in conquering Turkey. He was not waiting for any outside help, nor to the Jewish Agency, to finance his immigration to Israel. World War II was long over, and my grandfather financed the immigration to Israel with his own money. He even bribed an official in the Turkish Interior Ministry in order to make him sign his immigration visa to Israel. In 1959, at the age of 37, he immigrated entirely by himself through a special immigrant ship that arrived from Turkey. And all this happens during the War of Independence. As soon as he reached the port of Haifa, all qualified bachelors were taken to fight, and he was among them. They underwent military training at a base called Julis near Netanya. At the end of the training, my grandfather was sent to Jerusalem in order to fight the Jordanians who collaborated with the Arabs who were in Israel. A year later, the War of Independence was over, and the land of Israel was declared to be the Jewish state for all Jews. My grandfather's siblings and parents also immigrated to Israel. All they could get was a small house that the Israeli army had conquered from the Arabs. In this house, there were only 2 rooms. When my grandfather's family had 9 people and his 2 sisters were already married with children. Having no other choice, they had to huddle and manage. Slowly, each member of the family managed to find a job, and their economic welfare has improved. Albert met my grandmother Mazal when he was 45 and she was only 25. They met through a mutual friend and they got married in 1961. 2 years later, in 1963, my father Menachem was born. All 3 of them lived together in Lud. When my father was only 6 months old, my grandparents decided to divorce. According to the court's decision, my grandfather raised my father. Albert was severely ill with epilepsy, and since my grandmother could not handle it with his treatment, she decided to end the marriage. My father never saw his mom again from that moment on. She didn't even know Albert was sick before they got married. Although he had epilepsy and lived in a completely new country that had not yet been developed, in addition to having to raise a small child alone without means, he lived heroically and honorably. My grandfather passed away when he was 75 years old in 1999 and was buried in Lod.